The more they hit me and the refs stay silent, the better I get. You saw what happened. I dropped 32 on their ass.
One brutal eye poke, one violent shove, no call, no explanation. And the league? Silent. This is the moment everything changed for Caitlin Clark. June 17th, Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever. A game that was supposed to be another chapter in Caitlin's rookie season turned into something else entirely. This was no longer about basketball. This was about boundaries and how the league keeps moving them when it comes to its biggest star. It started in the third quarter. Nothing out of the ordinary until J.C. Sheldon rakes her hand across Caitlin Clark's face. Clark recoils, blinking, holding her eye.
Clearly that's a foul.
And it's contact to the face as well. It'd be interesting to know if they're going to look at that first one for a flag.
No whistle. Seconds later, Caitlin is walking across the court and gets shoved to the floor by Marina Mabrey. No ball, no play, just a shove. This wasn't incidental contact. This was targeted, intentional. And in just a few seconds, Clark is on the floor, wincing, and the officials are pretending like it wasn't a big deal. And that silence said everything. But then something shifted. Sophie Cunningham, new to the roster, fresh off a return from injury, stepped in. She didn't throw punches. She didn't scream. But she made it clear that wasn't going to slide.
Sheldon going coast to coast. And here we got another breakers here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham.
Didn't back down, didn't care if a fine was coming her way. It wasn't about being an enforcer. It was about drawing a line. The message was loud and clear. Caitlin Clark was not on her own. But here's the twist. Caitlin didn't complain. She didn't flop. She didn't stare down the refs. In the minutes left, she lit the court on fire. Step-back threes, behind-the-back passes, drives through traffic. She didn't speak, but her game said everything. She finished with 32 points, and she didn't blink. What happened on June 17th wasn't just a scuffle. It was the moment fans saw it for what it really was. The WNBA's double standard, front and center. No other rookie has ever brought in this much attention, this much revenue, this many fans. And yet no other star has been allowed to take this much punishment unchecked. One hit may have sparked this. But Caitlin Clark's response, that's what made it unforgettable. Before the headlines exploded and the league went silent, there were signs. June 17th wasn't just one ugly moment. It was the boiling point in a game that had been simmering with tension from the jump. From the very first quarter, it felt different. Not just physical, personal. Caitlin Clark wasn't just being guarded tightly, she was being hit, checked off the ball, denied space. The kind of plays you don't always notice on first watch, but they add up. It was the Connecticut Sun sending a message, one shared by a growing number of players across the league. You're not going to coast through here. Not with that hype. Possession after possession, the contact escalated. Clark was absorbing it without complaint. No flopping, no whining, just continuing to play. But every minute, the tone got more aggressive, and by the third quarter, it hit a breaking point.
Clearly that's a foul.
And it's contact to the face as well. It'd be interesting to know if they're going to look at that first one for a flagrant.
J.C. Sheldon swipes toward the ball but rakes her hand across Caitlin's face. Clark immediately clutches her eye, clearly in pain. The whistle? Silent. She barely has time to recover before Marina Mabrey steps into her path. A full, proper shove knocks Caitlin backward into the floor. Even the broadcast pauses. Even the crowd hesitates. Everyone watching can tell something is off. It was no longer just playing tough. It was targeted and ignored. That moment, 2 violent hits, no proper help from the refs, exposed a lot more than just bad officiating. It showed how far things had gone and how far the league was willing to let it go. But Sophie Cunningham stepped into the game. She didn't swing, she didn't cause a scene, but she made it clear. If no one else was going to stand up for Caitlin, she would. And that moment, brief as it was all it took for Fever fans to start asking the real question. Why does this keep happening? The answer? Maybe it's resentment, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's frustration that a sophomore is already the face of the league, or maybe it's something the WNBA doesn't want to admit, that they're not protecting the player who's bringing in the most attention. Because this wasn't just a one-off situation. This was the continuation of a trend that's been building for months. And after the game, the Fever's head coach, Stephanie White, confirmed what fans had already seen.
I'll take the official questions. There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete. And they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right, out of fierce competitions.
That statement didn't make the league's official channels. It didn't trend like the clips did. But for those paying attention, it said everything. Because when even your coach is calling out the officiating and nothing changes, that's not just another mistake. That's a failure. From the start of the game to the final buzzer, Caitlin Clark was treated like a problem to be solved, not a star to be protected. And the league's silence in the face of that? It spoke volumes. And for Fever fans, for the entire basketball world watching, this was the game where everything clicked. This wasn't just a rough night, this was the escalation, and it wasn't going away. After the shove, the pokes, the bruises, and the non-calls, something shifted. Not on the scoreboard, not in the box score, but on the court, between the players, in the energy of the team. Up to this point, the Fever had been fighting through every game like a team trying to find itself. A star, Caitlin Clark, carrying the load. A locker room still adjusting to national scrutiny. Chemistry is still forming. Through all of it, Caitlin Clark kept her head down, took the hits, answered with threes, never flinched. But she was taking those hits alone. And fans noticed Dot. They watched as she got knocked down and no one helped her up fast enough. As opponents bumped her and teammates barely reacted. It wasn't personal, just a team still learning to rally around its star. Until June 17th. That was the moment that changed. Sophie Cunningham didn't wait for a whistle. She didn't wait for permission. The second Caitlin got shoved, Cunningham played the game with purpose. It wasn't a brawl. It wasn't a dramatic moment. But it was the most important non-verbal message of the night.
Sheldon goes coast to coast. And here we got another break is here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham.
That moment went viral for a reason. Because for the first time, someone wasn't just letting it happen. It didn't matter that Cunningham hadn't been with the team long. It didn't matter that she wasn't a high-usage player. That moment defined leadership. A veteran seeing injustice and responding immediately, not with force, but with presence. She didn't need to throw a punch. She just needed to stand there. And after the game, she made it clear it wasn't just heat of the moment adrenaline. It was a choice. A single photo. No caption, no hashtags, just vibes. Thousands of impressions, not just from fans, but from players across the league. It was part statement, part shield, and for Fever fans, it was a sigh of relief. Finally, someone stood up. Because if the league won't protect Caitlin, someone has to. And Cunningham's timing couldn't have been better. She'd recently returned from injury. She hadn't even built a strong on-court rhythm yet. But that didn't matter. In that one moment, she cemented her role. The one who wasn't afraid to draw the line. The one who'd take a technical if it meant defending her teammate. The one who, for the first time all season, made it clear Caitlin Clark wasn't alone. This is the kind of moment that turns a team from scattered pieces into a unit. It's not always about a buzzer beater or a 20-point game. Sometimes, it's about letting your star know, we've got you. And in a league where Caitlin's received more hits than calls, that kind of support isn't just helpful, it's necessary. The Fever may not have been contenders yet. But after this game, they weren't just Caitlin's team anymore. They were her team, and Sophie's too. By now, the world knows Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She's the reason games are selling out. The reason national TV slots are suddenly crowded with WNBA broadcasts. The reason jerseys are flying off shelves, even in cities she hasn't played in yet. Caitlin Clark is not just a player, she's a movement, a walking highlight reel whose impact goes beyond the court. And yet, she's not being treated like it. And that's the contradiction the league hasn't figured out. You can't ask her to carry the WNBA's media attention, fan engagement, and commercial value, and then pretend she's just another name on the scouting report when the games start. Because fans are watching.
If everyone can stop the pearl clutching for just a minute, and I say that as a turn of phrase, not because it's women's basketball, you'd realize this is the best thing imaginable for this league. And listen, I said this back when Caitlin was at Iowa. and everyone was, I thought, being overly protective of her, and I thought a lot of that had to do with like, oh, this little white girl in a black sport. And I was like, man, she is a badass and a trash talker and gives it as good as she gets it.
That sentiment echoed everywhere. Comment sections, podcasts, TV segments. The more Clark produced, the more everyone else pretended it was normal. But nothing about this is normal. The WNBA saw a spike in attendance in her first month. Road games are sold out not because of the home team, but because people want to see Caitlin. And yet, every week she plays, there's another clip of her getting knocked down while the officials swallow the whistle.
And they've done a much better job this year. The officiating's not great, but the league's now just starting to make real money now, right? Like, so it's the officials, maybe the last part, you know, it's...
Well, yeah, I wonder with it, and I don't know, I'm not educated enough on this about what the hierarchy of officiating is, but obviously the best basketball officials in the world
are in the
want to
NBA.
officiate in the NBA.
Right.
This isn't just about what happens to Caitlin Clark. It's about what the WNBA is telling fans, especially new ones. Because right now, millions of people who tuned in for the first time this season are asking a simple question. Why does it look like the refs don't like her? And the answer? There isn't one. Because it's not about race, or status, or learning curves. It's about visibility. The WNBA is finally getting the spotlight it's always deserved. But instead of supporting the player who brought it, they're letting her get run through the gauntlet. You don't have to love Caitlin Clark's game, you don't have to like the fans she brings in, but you can't ignore what she means to the bottom line. And if the league doesn't start treating her like the investment she is, fans are going to stop investing too. Because what happened on June 17th wasn't just a play. It was a moment of exposure. A moment that pulled the curtain back on a league still unsure how to handle its own growth. You want to be mainstream? Then act like it. Because the girl who just dropped 32 while getting shoved to the floor, she's not the problem. She's the proof. You can say a lot about Caitlin Clark, that she's too hyped, that she's too confident, that she hasn't earned the star treatment yet. But there's one thing you can't say, that she ever lets the noise shake her. Because every time the league ignores the hits, every time opponents try to send a message, and every time the officials swallow the whistle, she just answers the same way. With buckets. After the third quarter incident, the eye poke, the shove, there was no meltdown. No angry stare down, no flailing or flopping or dramatic reactions. She didn't even look at the ref. She asked for the ball. And that's when the real message started.
Double team and threw it right to Howard. Clark weaving through traffic and gets the roll.
The Sun tried to pressure her on the ball. Didn't matter. She ran through it, got the lane. Fired from mid-range, splash. It was pure. Then came the vision. A full-speed drive, 2 defenders trailing, a quick jump pass to the dunker's spot, assist.
Been easily her best year, third year in her WNBA in terms of setting up her teammates. Clark behind the back, feed inside, 2 more for Howard.
While the league stayed quiet, Caitlin turned up the volume. Play by play, shot by shot. She didn't respond with anger. She responded with precision. And when she finally pulled up from deep enough to make the whole arena hold its breath, she let the bench have it. A glance, a nod, a silent message.
Christmas Kelly escorting her back to the bench.
J.C. Sheldon is there with her hand in her face.
She finished with 32 points. But it wasn't just the numbers. It was the control, the confidence, the refusal to fold under pressure, even as elbows and shoulders kept coming. And that kind of poise? That's the part people don't give her enough credit for. It's easy to notice the shooting range, the highlight passes, the logo heat checks. But what sets Caitlin apart is her calm, her command, her ability to read the moment and take it over without needing to say a word. This was her most complete answer yet. A masterclass in playing through contact, through tension, through the weight of a league that doesn't seem sure how to handle her. She didn't demand a press conference. She didn't call out the refs on social media. She let the tape speak. The fever bench? Fired up. The opposing sideline? Dead quiet. The crowd? Roaring. Because when a player takes that kind of abuse and still dominates the game, people notice. And for the fans watching, especially the millions who tuned in just to see her, it was more than just a highlight reel. It was a message to the league: if you won't protect me, I'll protect the product myself. That's what Caitlin Clark has become. Not just a star, a standard. Not just a scorer, a shield. Not just a rookie, a reminder that greatness doesn't wait for permission. And whether the league wants to acknowledge it or not, she's already set the tone. You hit her? She scores. You doubt her? She proves you wrong. You stay quiet? She makes sure the court isn't. This is what a silent response looks like. No theatrics, no drama, just results. At first, people said it was just physical defense. Then they said it was growing pains. Then it was, she brings it on herself. But at this point, no one's pretending anymore. There's something deeper going on in the WNBA, and Caitlin Clark is right in the middle of it. She's not just being defended, she's being targeted, over and over again. You can feel it when she runs through screens and gets bumped twice before she even touches the ball. You can see it when she takes more contact off the ball than on it. And when it finally spills into something more violent, it's never a surprise anymore, it's just part of the routine. Like the shoulder from Kennedy Carter.
It was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary? Kennedy Carter.
Dead ball. No play happening. Caitlin walks past the timeline, and Carter lowers her shoulder, deliberately. The contact sends Clark sideways, stumbling. No one reacts. The league doesn't review it until the internet forces their hand. It wasn't a play. It was a message. One Clark has been hearing loud and clear all season. And Carter wasn't the only one. In another game, it was Angel Reese, hard contest at the rim, hand to the face, flagrant one.
I believe to Angel Reese. Yep, across the head, and they will go to the monitor to review the
flagrant one. That's what the officials called it. But if you look at the slow motion, you can see what fans saw immediately. The contact wasn't incidental. It was reckless, dangerous, another message sent, another moment absorbed, another headline ignored. And still, the league stayed quiet. You'd think the most talked about player in women's basketball would have some level of protection. But what she's getting is the opposite. The more popular she becomes, the more she's hit. And the more she's hit, the quieter the league seems to get. So what's really going on? Because this isn't just about missed calls anymore. It's about what those missed calls represent. They represent resentment. From opponents who think she hasn't earned the attention. From veterans who've been overlooked for years, from a league unsure how to balance history with a tidal wave of change. And they represent fear, that giving her too much room means losing control of the narrative, that protecting her means admitting she's different, maybe even bigger than the league itself. So instead, they let it happen. And it keeps happening. Diamond D shields on a fast break, body check, no play on the ball. Dewana Bonner contesting a jumper, no ball, no landing space, no whistle. It's no longer about basketball. It's about control. The league is watching her rewrite their business model. She's selling more tickets, pulling bigger TV numbers, and bringing in sponsors who weren't even in the conversation a year ago. And instead of building around her, they're backing away. Because in their eyes, Caitlin Clark isn't just a superstar. She's a disruption. She's shaking up hierarchies, creating tension in locker rooms, and pulling focus from players who've been grinding for years with a fraction of the spotlight. But none of that excuses what's happening. You can't let your brightest star take hit after hit without consequence. You can't ask her to carry the weight of national attention, then act like she's just another rookie when it's convenient. Because what fans are seeing, what they're talking about online, what analysts are pointing out night after night is the gap, the contradiction, between how valuable Caitlin is and how little that seems to matter when the game gets physical. That's the dark secret. The league doesn't have an answer, so instead it's staying silent. And every shove, every cheap shot, every non-call, it just makes the silence louder. So now the league has a choice. It can keep doing what it's been doing, watching from the sidelines while its most valuable player takes hit after hit. Or it can finally do what it asks of everyone else. Protect the game. Because this isn't about one foul, or one shove, or one night in Connecticut. It's about the WNBA's future. And whether that future includes the very fans who've shown up in record numbers this season. Whether it includes the next generation who wears number 22 jerseys and begs their parents to take them to fever games. Whether it includes a league ready to grow or one afraid of its own momentum. Right now, the message being sent is simple. Caitlin Clark brings in the money, the viewers, the headlines, but when she hits the floor, she's on her own. That disconnect is dangerous. Because you can't build an empire on a player's back and then shrug when she's getting shoved into the hardwood. You can't market her face on every graphic and then pretend you don't see her getting targeted. And you definitely can't stay silent when the entire world is watching. Clark isn't asking for special treatment. She's not asking to be untouchable. She's asking for fairness, for consistency, for the same standard applied across the board. And if the league won't give her that, she'll take something bigger, and that's the narrative. Because with every game, every logo 3, every moment she gets up and responds with buckets, she's reminding the world why she's here. Not just to play, to expose Dot, not just to compete, to change the game, and if the WNBA doesn't catch up, it'll be left behind by the very player it helped create.